a este país lo único que ha hecho ha sido trabajar y trabajar como un bolo. Como un bolo, eso es una injusticia. Una injusticia, una grande injusticia.
Bueno, ahora tengo que ir a la oficina de ICE a pedir que no lo deporten y dar mis razones.
Esto no tiene palabras. Porque todos saben, nosotros somos cubanos. Y venimos a este país en busca de mejorar las vidas. Y desde el día uno que llegó a este país, lo único que ha hecho ha sido trabajar y trabajar y trabajar. Y hacer todas las cosas bien. No tenemos hijos, pero él tiene toda su familia.
Y ella está legal bien aquí.
Ella es residente, ella tenía una petición familiar puesta para su esposo. No nos han dado esa oportunidad tampoco.
The Supreme Court today authorized the end of humanitarian parole for 500,000 migrants. The court sided with the Trump administration, leaving Venezuelans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Cubans at risk of deportation. Here in South Florida, some immigrants are being detained at federal immigration courts for expedited removal. CBS News Miami's Yvonne Taylor is live from Miami with reaction tonight. Yvonne?
Yes, definitely a very difficult day for many families in South Florida, Lauren. We're going to start with a story of a Dominican woman who says that a federal judge told her that her nephew did not qualify for political asylum. So as they were leaving court, she says ICE agents detained him. And tonight, they don't know where he is.
That's unfair. This is unfair. I'm so sorry. I can't talk enough.
Let me ask
I don't know how I'm going to say that to my mom. My mom has a heart attack.
Judelka Mejia cannot believe she's going back home without her nephew, 29-year-old Yasael Almonte Mejia.
This means today from her asylum that we apply, then we put all the proof and we explain all the situation that happened in DR.
And like many other immigrants, when their case is dismissed, they are detained at the hallway before leaving the building by immigration agents dressed as civilians.
Boy. So we got to talk about the outrage that is currently happening over the fact that President Trump is not backing down from the illegal immigration crackdown. That includes the illegals who came to the country, quote unquote, legally under Biden administration, right? Giving them temporary protected status. However, a lot of these migrants have found out that, hey, they're no longer temporarily protected. And once their hearing gets denied, right, once their, petition to stay in the United States of America gets denied, they're being arrested at courthouses, okay? ICE agents are camping out at courthouses. If you show up for your hearing, okay, and you're denied asylum or whatever you're seeking in order to stay into the country, you're arrested and you're deported immediately, right? You are removed in an expedited way. And there's a lot of boohoo, whining, and crying, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, because at the end of the day, people were misled to believe that being here temporarily meant that you could just stay here forever, right? That's what Democrats would have allowed. But President Trump has ended that thanks to the Supreme Court.
The humanitarian parole is over.
Willie Allen, who has been an immigration attorney in South Florida for over 4 decades, told us he is not surprised to see this outcome.
One president creates an executive action, the next president can eliminate. Still, the least affected are going to be the Cubans, who can still apply for Cuban adjustment.
The news caused me anxiety, and once again, we are wondering what's going to happen. Eduardo Villaverde is one of the 500,000 people who came to the U.S. through the humanitarian parole, a program the Biden administration used to reduce the number of illegal entries and accommodate migrants fleeing countries in critical situations. He came from Nicaragua. 531,690 people are affected, to be exact. The highest number came from Haiti.
And now the ICE raids are really picking up, especially in states like Florida that are cooperating with the federal government, right? They are helping the federal government with the mass deportations. And Democrats, of course, they are now very upset about this, right? They're saying that this is like Gestapo, right? It is Gestapo tactics to deport illegals or people who, again, are no longer here legally. And, they've had their day in court, okay? It's been denied. They can't stay here, right? is Gestapo, according to Democrats, to deport them, right? To enforce federal immigration law. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Tonight, President Trump's immigration crackdown ramping up with sweeping raids across the state of Florida. Just as the Supreme Court gives the president a major victory today, revoking the legal status for migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. That means that even as the original ruling is appealed, the Trump administration can deport more than 500,000 people currently in the U.S. from those 4 countries, even though many arrived legally under a Biden-era program.
It's very important that we're able to get those people out of here fast, bring them back to their country where they belong.
That speed picking up in recent days here in the Sunshine State.
Construction workers were working on this building behind me when law enforcement came from all directions, descending on them, rounding them up in the hundreds.
This construction site in Tallahassee, now the site of one of the largest immigration raids in state history. Workers seen on video Thursday pouring out of the building near FSU campus where they were constructing student housing, still wearing their construction vests, their hands tied.
Seems like yesterday, in some ways, was kind of unprecedented here.
For sure. It's one of the biggest raids we've ever seen, and it involved several state agencies plus ICE. We are hearing that about 200 people showed up for work. More than 100 of them were detained.
Wow. Over 50% of them were detained. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that there's 100 jobs that just came available, right? Any young man that's looking for work, okay, that needs a job, there you go, right there, right? That's 100 jobs for you, okay? Those jobs need to be worked by American citizens, okay? Again, specifically young men who are looking to get into the workforce, who are looking to build skills. That's who should be working those jobs, okay? I'm just saying, I want to see young American men working those jobs. I don't want to see illegals working those jobs, right? So, yeah, they got to go. They got to go. And I know some people are saying, well, what about the Cubans? Well, here's the thing about the Cubans. They have their own special way of coming into the country, okay? Under the Cuban Immigrants and Cuban Adjustment Act, they can use that, okay, in order to apply for residency, right, permanent residency. So they have their own way of kind of coming in, okay? However, if their case is denied, then, hey, they got to be deported at the end of the day. I mean, just because they're from Cuba, that doesn't mean that they should get extra special treatment. I mean, they already kind of get special treatment. So I'm just saying that ultimately, if you have your day in court and you were denied and you're saying, hey, no, you don't qualify for political asylum, then ultimately you got to go. Okay. And that doesn't mean that, you know, I don't respect the fact that Cubans, when they come here, specifically in South Florida, a lot of them vote Republican and conservative. I respect that, right? Especially the ones that come here legally and do it. That's great. That's awesome, right? But again, if you come here illegally, or if you come here on some type of special status or temporary status, and ultimately, again, you had your day in court and it was denied and you got to go back, then, hey, it is what it is, okay? I mean, there are a lot of Venezuelans who are also claiming that they're escaping political persecution, right? They're escaping socialism, and, you know, they got to go back too, okay? So ultimately, at the end of the day, I know that there's a lot of sad stories. I know there's a lot of tears, but what we're seeing right now has to happen, okay? And don't get me wrong, like, it's tough seeing this, right? You know, to me, I don't take pleasure in seeing people, you know, crying about it, but ultimately, when you're talking about running a country, when you're talking about making, you know, tough decisions about what's best for the country, right? Enforcing laws. You got to put your feelings aside and say, hey, you know what? I might not necessarily like seeing people, you know, get so emotional about it and crying, but ultimately it's what's best for the country, right? It's something that we just have to do. And it is what it is at the end of the day, right? And that's the way I look at it.
Immigration attorney Elizabeth Ritchie says she's getting calls by the dozens.
I'm concerned about due process violations. We've been seeing those, unfortunately, more and more recently. I want to make sure that everyone's rights are protected.
And now detainments are being reported at courthouses as migrants show up to their immigration hearings. This video from Thursday showing a family with 4 children detained outside of this San Antonio immigration courthouse. With workplace raids also on the rise, like the Tallahassee one Governor DeSantis touts as a major bus success. The recent raids across the country are also raising outcry.
This is Gestapo-like behavior, where plainclothes officers wearing masks are terrorizing immigrants who are doing the right thing by going to court, following up on their immigration proceedings, and trying to come into this country lawfully.
Yeah, and they got denied. They got denied. See, notice how they're leaving that out, right? When these immigration attorneys talk, oh, well, I'm concerned about due process violations. Well, no, specifically, these people are being denied. They're showing up, they're being denied, and instead of just being allowed to leave and to just, stay in the country, and who knows whether or not they'll actually leave, right? No, ICE is saying, you've been denied, you're out of here, right? Immediately. Which I don't know why they weren't doing this before, right? Why was this not the standard? This should have been the standard from the get-go. ICE should always be at these courtrooms to deport illegals who are denied whatever type of legal immigration status they're seeking, right? This should have been a default. This should have been a default. The fact that this is something special or that this is something controversial really shows you how broken our immigration system was under past administrations. Because these illegals should have known that, yeah, well, if I get denied, right, if a judge says that I'm not eligible for political asylum, I'm going to be deported, they should have known that. That should have been an expectation, right? They should have been ready. They should have had their bags packed just in case they get denied. The fact that this is something that seems to be new, right, is crazy to me. It absolutely blows my mind. They were allowing these people to be rejected, and then they could just stay, right? There was no enforcement in regards to whether or not they'd actually leave. And some people may say, well, doesn't this incentivize the illegals not to show up for their hearings? And I'm like, yeah, maybe it does. But if they choose not to show up, if they choose to miss their hearings, then that's automatic deportation, right? If they get caught, right? If they get caught, which they eventually will get caught, then yeah, that's automatic deportation because you missed your hearing. Right. So clearly you're not here to seek asylum. Right. You're not really an asylum seeker if you're afraid to go to court. Right. If you have a legitimate case, you should not be afraid to go to court. OK, if you're here legitimately, OK, for again, asylum seeking reasons, you're escaping political persecution, then you should not be afraid of going to court. But see, that's the issue. These people are not here because they are legitimately escaping asylum. No, they're here for economic opportunity, right? They're here to get a job and to work, which I respect, by the way. I don't blame them, right? I don't blame them, okay? Because, I mean, hey, who knows? If I was in their situation, I might try to do the same thing. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, who knows, right? When it comes to, some of these people, right? I'd rather have them in the country than some of these liberals, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, there are some people who come over and, they become hardcore, Americanized, but a lot of them don't, right? But I'm just saying, there are some who come over, they, are, very patriotic. They love the country. They're very thankful for the opportunity. They learn English. They do what they're supposed to do, right? They actually try to assimilate to the culture. I would much rather have those people than, again, some of these liberals, right, to be honest with you. But regardless, you got to come in the right way, right? It has to be done the right way, and it has to be done for legitimate reasons, okay? Legitimate reasons. So, again, it's one of those things where at this point, I'm just shocked that this was not the standard, right? This is not what we were doing from the get-go, right? This should have been the default.
President Trump's administration pushed ICE with a quota of 1,800 arrests per day in the days after his inauguration. According to data obtained by NBC News, ICE deported over 17,000 people last month. That's up more than 50% from deportations in February. But border czar Tom Homan says it's not enough.
But I'm not satisfied. I haven't been satisfied all year long because what I just said, we got 600,000 criminals walking the streets of this country we need to get. So, yeah, we increase the number of teams. We're going to have over 1,000 teams on the street. We're putting more targeting in this. We got to increase these arrests and removals.
All right, Marissa, let's pick it up right there. I know you're at a rally for immigration rights hosted by activists there behind you. I'm
going to say this. If you are black, okay, I mean, I'm talking about like an actual black American, okay? I don't know if she's black American because she look Haitian, okay? And they got to go too, right? They are the ones that also benefited from the temporary protected status. And hey, I'm just saying, sending the Haitians back to Haiti is a lot worse than sending some of these other people back to the other countries. So I'm just saying, if the Haitians got to go back to Haiti, then I'm just saying it's hard to justify not sending back the others to their countries as well too, okay? The people that are under the temporary protected status. But my point is that if you are a black American, right, and you're protesting on behalf of illegal immigrants staying in the United States of America, you look like a damn fool, okay? You look like a damn fool. Like, for example, the black Democrat that went to El Salvador to try to rescue Abrego Garcia, right? An illegal immigrant, gang member, alleged human trafficker, wife beater. You just like a damn fool, right? I'm so serious, okay? Where are all these so-called pro-blacks calling people like myself, black conservatives, sellouts, and all type of racial slurs? I think that should be directed towards these black Democrats who are bending over backwards to save illegals, okay? I'm just saying, those are the people that are selling out, in my opinion.
Heard Tom Homan there. I want to pick up right there. Should we expect more raids in the days ahead?
Well, Tom, I can tell you right now that what we saw in Tallahassee is probably most likely a sign of what's to come, what's to be ramped up in the coming days and weeks. So behind me, you might be able to hear the noise. This is from an immigration rights group, and all of the allies that have come out. They're wearing a lot of signs that say that they are in support of local immigrants, asking ICE to get out of this local area. But what was so striking about what we saw in Tallahassee, because raids are not new, these types of protests and rallies are not new, Tom, but what is new is this partnership between state and federal agencies, as well as the sheer scale of this. We really have not seen something like this in Florida, at least at this scale, at a workplace raid before. So this is what we're talking about when we say, in order to meet that quota, we might be saying more of exactly that, Tom.
Okay, Marissa Parra there in Tallahassee. Marissa, we thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Again, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what the American people voted for. And this is why people who are to the right of me, when they come out here and they say, oh, Trump's not doing enough on illegal immigration. Obama was deporting more illegals than Trump. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, right? President Trump is up against a whole establishment, blue states, blue cities, sanctuary states that are hell-bent on keeping the illegals in the country no matter what. Obama did not have to deal with this. In fact, they were cooperating with Obama, right? The cities cooperated with Obama, okay? They're not doing that under President Trump. So again, that's the difference. President Trump has to basically go out of his way, right? Bend over backwards to come up with new ways to deport the illegals. And that's something that past presidents haven't had to do. And that is why you're not seeing the numbers that a lot of people, kind of expected, right? Because again, he's working against an establishment that is trying to make it harder. They are obstructing the federal government from deporting the illegals, okay? But regardless of that, President Trump is not giving up. He's actually doubling and tripling down, and he's doing everything he can, including using some very controversial tactics in order to deport the illegals, right? To fulfill his campaign promise. And that's the only thing that you can really ask for, really. What you are looking for, what we're looking for is legitimate effort, right? Like, are you legitimately trying to fulfill the campaign promise, right? Are you legitimately trying to deport 1 million illegals a year? Are you trying to do that, right? Now, whether or not they actually do that, to me at this point, doesn't really matter, because I can see that they're putting in 100% effort into doing it, okay? Now, whether or not it actually happens, who knows, right? But regardless, they're doing it. And you also have a lot of people that are self-deporting, right? You have a lot of people that are saying, you know what, I'm not even going to try to come to the United States of America. And that in and of itself is a win, okay? I mean, this issue right here, I cannot be more satisfied with what the administration has done thus far. Again, I absolutely love it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.